Now that the World Cup is over and I finally have time to read again, I wanted to put together a list of 4 football/soccer books that I think you should check out. Now, I initially planned on making this video during the group stage, but to be honest, I was just not reading at all. I was consumed by all the games. You could catch me on my couch doing the Viking rows. Shout out to Erling Haaland. Hopefully he comments on this video nice, like he's been all over social media. I even got to go to a game at SoFi to watch the U.S. national team's opening game. That was just a bucket list experience, and I'm grateful to have experienced that with one of my best friends in the world. In my opinion, I think the World Cup is just one of the coolest shared human experiences that we all have. It was just a beautiful summer of watching games with strangers and seeing people from all over the world just celebrate and connect. And I can't wait for the next one. I'm excited to see Triple Espresso bring that World Cup trophy back home. All that being said, here are 4 books to keep that soccer energy going. All right, the first book on my list is Among the Thugs by Bill Buford. This is just a wild nonfiction book about English football hooliganism in the 1980s. And it opens with a sea of Liverpool fans chanting, destroying cars, trashing pubs, just complete chaos. And after witnessing this firsthand, American journalist Bill Buford wants to understand, why is this happening? What is drawing these young men into this kind of violence? And so the entire book becomes a series of firsthand experiences where he immerses himself in that world, traveling to matches, going to bars, building relationships with supporters, and just being right there as everything escalates. And it just gets super intense. Like, people are throwing bottles filled with pee, hotels are getting destroyed, there are stabbings, racial tension, crowds of people are crushed. At one point, a police officer's eye is bitten off. Like, I'm a Raiders fan, and I've been to a few scary games in my life, but his stories made my experiences feel like a family picnic. But what makes this book really interesting is not just about the violence, it's about why people get pulled into that violence. So Buford mixes these stories with psychology to make it feel more like a series of case studies. He dives into ideas like identity, belonging, crowd psychology, how being a part of these groups gives people this sense of purpose, and how easy it is to lose yourself in that environment. There was one moment where he even started to enjoy this. It was like really euphoric to him. And so that just went to show how powerful this group mentality can be. And so even if you're not into soccer, I still think this is a fascinating and relevant read on how things can just escalate to the extreme. Okay, next up is Fever Pitch by Nick Hornby. This was my first Nick Hornby book, but I've seen some of his film adaptations like High Fidelity, About a Boy, even the Boston Red Sox one with Drew Barrymore and Jimmy Fallon. So I was really looking forward to this one. This is a memoir about his lifelong obsession with Arsenal, and going into this, I knew nothing about Arsenal, the Premier League, so a lot of it, to be honest, kind of went over my head. This book is structured around specific games and season, tying those to different phases of his life, like his relationship with his father, going away to college, his first girlfriend, just all that kind of stuff. And there's so much details in this about players and match history. To be honest, by the second half, it got a little bit repetitive for me. Nick's level of obsession with this team is just on a whole different level. And as someone who doesn't know anything about Arsenal, it just kind of felt like trivia knowledge at times. All that being said, I still think I enjoyed about 75% of this book, because as a sports fan, this book is just painfully relatable. As I said earlier, I'm a Raiders fan, been a Raiders fan my entire life. I don't know why. They've been terrible my entire life, and for some reason I still watch their games and let it affect my mood every single Sunday. There's just this weird, almost religious belief that one day our team is going to win it all. We're all just a little delusional in that way, and I think Nick Hornby does a great job of capturing that belief, and that's what made this book really shine for me. Nick writes with a wonderful comedic tone. He has this great self-depreciating humor. There's this moment where his girlfriend faints during one of the games, and he just keeps chanting and cheering for his team. There's this other moment where he has this commentary about losing a favorite player to another team being worse than losing a girlfriend, and I was just laughing during like his little anecdotes like that. Imagine if Kobe would have went to the Clippers. I think that would have just ruined my life. Or even Ohtani now going to the Dodgers. I don't know how Angel fans are able to live with that. So there was just so many moments in this book where I saw myself and related to him and his thoughts. From being a kid idolizing players to now watching guys who are way younger than me and realizing, as the kids say, that I have reached OG Unk status. But as Nick Hornby says, I am part of the club just as the club is part of me. And so if you're a sports fan, you'll definitely see yourself in this. Okay, next up is Furia by Yamile Saied Méndez. This is a young adult's novel that blends sports, romance, and social justice themes. It follows Camila, a teenage girl from Argentina who dreams of becoming a soccer player in the United States, but standing in her way are her parents who don't want her playing at all. They believe a football stadium is no place for girls. Soccer is for boys. Her brother is a professional soccer player, so is her crush. But she needs to be staying home. She needs to be wearing dresses. She needs to focus on her academics and kind of just staying in her lane. Her father is especially machismo. He is constantly putting down her dreams, and he is emotionally and physically abusive toward her and her mother, so trigger warning about that. So Camila ends up living this double life, playing soccer in secret, and on the field, that's where she becomes Furia. There, she is confident, aggressive, she plays with this intense passion. It's the one place where she feels free, but it's also where she starts to break down those generational cycles. At home and in her community, she is constantly hearing that men are the ones who lead, they are the ones who provide, while women are just expected to stay quiet and not step outside of those expectations. So a big part of the story is Camila pushing back on those ideas and trying to figure out who she wants to be. And I think that's what made this book work the most for me. It's about soccer, but it's also about a person having the courage to go after something when everyone around them is telling them not to. I also liked all the soccer references in this book, so if you have a teen who's into soccer, they'll hear references to Marta, Alex Morgan, Messi, Neymar, and as someone with a Hispanic background, I enjoyed all of the cultural details, things like a curandera, the music that her mother played at home, the food they ate, the setting of the barrio, their conversations. It all just felt really authentic and relatable to me. And so I'll definitely be recommending this one to the student athletes I have in my classroom. It's just a solid coming of age story that mixes sports with identity and culture. So yeah, definitely check this one out. All right, last but definitely not least is Booked by Kwame Alexander. You might know him from The Crossover, which won the Newbery Medal and is written in a very similar style to this one. It's a novel in verse. And like The Crossover, I love this book. This is an English teacher's dream. And honestly, I think if I had this book as a middle schooler, I would have just devoured it and it would have changed my trajectory of reading. It follows Nick, a 13-year-old kid who loves soccer. He's playing with his best friend and they both want to play in this big soccer tournament in Dallas. But like Furia, this book isn't just about soccer, it's also about a play on the word booked. We have a kid who's obsessed with soccer, but he hates reading. So this title kind of works on multiple levels with a soccer penalty, but also him feeling like he is in a prison because his dad is a linguistics professor and his dad created this dictionary. And so every night he's going through all the words A through Z. He has to spend hours at home reading, learning new words, which Nick describes as this sort of word prison. And my favorite thing about this book is how Nick starts to use those words. And you get to learn new words as well. Like there was a bunch of words in here that I had no idea what they meant. But at the bottom, he incorporates the definition and a sentence that Nick uses in a very snarky way. And so he'll start to drop them in conversations in the classroom. He's kind of like the class clown, gives those vibes there. And so this is a great way to learn new vocabulary as well for kids. And there's running joke throughout the book where Nick uses words in the wrong context. And I think that adds even more humor to the story. I'm not a big poetry reader, but this just reminded me of how fun and flexible language can be. There's a variety of poem styles in here, from blackout poetry to a poem inspired by Langston Hughes. There's even some rap style poems delivered by the school librarian, the Mac. He's an incredible character. He's kind of like a mentor figure to Nick. He just randomly comes into scenes and drops freestyles and drops these lines like, hey, are you a bus driver? Because you just took those fools to school. So a little bit corny, a little bit cheesy, but that's what middle schoolers enjoy the most. So you get a lot of personality in this book, and on top of that, it's a good coming of age story. Nick is dealing with his parents separating, struggling with school. He's trying to balance soccer. He's trying to figure out his feelings for a girl. He's basically the average teenager who feels like everything is sort of piling up at once. And there's also this moment where he starts to go to therapy, which I think added a nice layer to how he handles emotions and how his character kind of grows. So overall, I just enjoyed the story, every single minute of it. This was a fun, easy to read as well. I think I read it in about an hour. I think it's a great book for younger readers, especially reluctant readers who might be interested in reading something different than a traditional novel. So I'd be definitely recommending this one to my students, right up there with Furia. So yeah, those are my 4 soccer recommendations. Hopefully something a little different that you're able to maybe check out or recommend to someone else in your life. Tell me how you enjoyed this year's World Cup in the comments. I really appreciate you all for being here, and I will see you on the next one.